Hello everyone, a very pleasant day to you. U.S. approves $413 million for military operations in Nigeria amid rising insecurity. Rivers Assembly gives fresh update on impeaching Fubara and deputy. 5 banking transactions that will attract 7.5% VAT in Nigeria. Abia State ALGON backs Otti's re-election, rejects ex-governor's threat. Defense Minister reveals why no bodies were found after U.S. airstrikes in Sokoto. On the foreign scene, Trump unveils a healthcare framework aimed at lowering costs in the latest affordability push. A very good day to you and welcome to First Next News Port Harcourt. I am Becky Usoro. Now the news in full. The United States government has officially authorized a sum of $413.46 million, approximately 587 billion naira, to fund military operations across Nigeria and other West African nations. This significant financial commitment is aimed at tackling the persistent wave of insecurity, including banditry and terrorism that has plagued the region. The funding is a key component of the newly signed U.S. National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for the 2026 fiscal year. This comprehensive defense bill, which aligns a total global military expenditure of $901 billion, was signed into law by President Donald Trump on December 18, 2025. Moreover, the specific allocation for the U.S. African Command, AFRICOM, was approved under the Operation and Maintenance category to bolster the fight against extremist groups. This move comes on the heels of direct U.S. military involvement in Nigeria on Christmas Day 2025. American forces conducted airstrikes against terrorist hideouts in Sokoto State. Following this, AFRICOM delivered a fresh consignment of military equipment to Nigerian security agencies this past Tuesday. The equipment handover in Abuja is seen as a strategic step to modernize the Nigerian military's hardware and improve its tactical response to insurgency. Beyond the financial aid, the NDAA 2026 introduces structural changes to how the U.S. manages its interest in Africa. The act establishes a new Bureau of African Affairs and the position of Assistant Secretary for African Affairs within the Department of State. These officers will be tasked with overseeing foreign policy and coordinating security assistance specifically for sub-Saharan Africa. We now move on to Rivers State. The Rivers State House of Assembly has insisted that the impeachment process against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odu would continue as planned. The lawmakers who addressed a press conference on Friday accused the governor of infringing on the 1999 Constitution, saying the parliament was left with no other choice but to apply their legislative power by impeaching him from office. They also accused Fubara of blackmail, saying that he lacked the trust needed to address the crisis rocking the state. The Assembly members argued that their actions are backed by the Constitution and no ethnic agenda should be read into the ongoing process to impeach Governor Fubara. Meanwhile, 4 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly have reversed their earlier position and backed their colleague in the impeachment process against Siminalayi Fubara, governor of the state, and Ngozi Odu, his deputy. The lawmakers said Fubara has shown no remorse over the allegations leveled against him by the Assembly. Moving on to Abia State, the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, Abia State Chapter, has thrown its weight behind the re-election bid of Governor Alex Otti in the 2027 general election. The group also passed a vote of confidence on the governor in recognition of what it described as his performance, purposeful leadership, and commitment to restoring integrity, efficiency, and stability in the state. The endorsement comes amid recent political developments in Abia State, following a vow by 3 former governors of the state, led by Senator Ojus Okalu, that Otti would not secure a second term in office. The communique was signed by the ALGON chairman in the state, Chinedum Ekeke. The group stated that Abia State under Otti's leadership is on a path of renewal and progress, adding that the future of the state remains firmly in the hands of its people, whose collective judgment must always be respected. It's called on all political actors, past and present, to engage constructively by presenting ideas, policies, and alternative visions capable of advancing development, unity, and stability in Abia State rather than resorting to divisive or distracting statements. Away from that story, Nigerians will begin paying 7.5% value-added tax VAT on selected banking service charges from January 19, 2026, following a directive from the Nigerian Revenue Service (NRS). This development affects digital and electronic banking fees collected by banks and fintech platforms nationwide. Under the new rule, VAT will be applied only to service fees charged by financial institutions, not on the principal amounts being transferred or withdrawn. The tax must be collected by banks, microfinance institutions, and electronic money operators and remitted to the NRS. Mobile banking transfer fees, example charges on money transfers, USSD transaction fees, charges for short code banking sections, card insurance fees, cost to issue debit to other cards, POS transaction fees, charges for point-of-sale payments, loan processing and documentation fees where applicable. The tax directive was communicated to customers via email notices from payment platforms such as MoneyPoint, which clarified that this is not a price increase by the companies themselves, but a statutory requirement to collect and remit VAT under the new guidelines. Services that do not attract VAT include interest on deposits or savings. Meanwhile, customers will not pay the tax on returns from their bank accounts. Financial institutions are expected to clearly itemize the VAT charges on transaction receipts and bank statements so users can see the tax applied separately. This move is part of broader tax reform efforts to expand revenue sources and standardize VAT collection across digital financial services in Nigeria's growing digital economy. Away from that story, the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, retired, has clarified the circumstances surrounding the absence of physical remains after the recent United States military intervention in Sokoto State. According to the minister, the sophisticated nature of the ordnance deployed during the operations explains why no bodies are recovered from the targeted sites. Speaking via a television interview on Thursday, General Musa revealed that the precision strikes utilize high-end military technology that leaves virtually no trace of the targets. He specifically mentioned the use of Tomahawk missiles, noting that the sheer destructive power of these advanced weapons accounts for the lack of visible evidence on the ground. They wouldn't know because the way they were neutralized, you wouldn't see anything. It's a new kind of weapon that was used. The Tomahawks, the defense minister stated during the interview, he disclosed that while the U.S. forces were engaging specific targets, the Nigerian Army, Navy, and Air Force were simultaneously conducting large-scale sweeps in other volatile regions. Moreover, the minister noted that these synchronized efforts have already led to significant gains since the start of January. General Musa concluded by urging Nigerians to remain confident in the military's evolving capabilities and the strengthening of international partnerships aimed at securing the country. We now move on to the foreign scene. President Donald Trump unveiled a multi-part proposal on Thursday aimed at lowering prescription drug prices and reducing health insurance premiums, as well as increasing price transparency within the healthcare system. The White House is positioning the package dubbed the Great Healthcare Plan as a framework to help Congress grasp the decision to address cost challenges in healthcare. Light on details, the proposal comes as the president is seeking to show Americans that he's addressing the affordability concerns. Administration officials also stressed that the effort is more comprehensive than just a long-promised replacement for the Affordable Care Act. Mehmet Oz, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, told reporters that big seismic shifts are needed to address the issues in the U.S. healthcare system. We now bring you highlights of the stories in the bulletin so far. Brought to the U.S. approved $413 million for military operations in Nigeria amid rising insecurity. And also from Rivers State, Rivers Assembly gives fresh updates on impeaching Fubara and deputy. And also 5 banking transactions that will attract 7.5% VAT in Nigeria. And also from Abia State ALGON backs Otti's re-election, rejects ex-governor's threats. And also Defense Minister reviews why no bodies were found after U.S. airstrikes in Sokoto. And also from the foreign scene, brought to you that Trump unveils a healthcare framework aimed at lowering costs in the latest affordability push. That's all on the news. I am Becky Osoro from I and the entire team in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.